Alright, what's poppin', people? We are back. And look, week 3 of SCL. It's over. And we've already seen multiple lineup changes due to, like, player performance. And by performance, I don't even know, like, the people are necessarily playing poorly, they just losing. I don't know why that's how it starts off, but we got week 3 replays, and there's some interesting things to note just off of, like, team previews on literally all of these. So I think the first thing to note is if we go through every team, I think there's a certain Pokemon that we're not seeing anywhere. Oh yeah, Silvally-Ground. Which I think is pretty funny. This game I actually didn't watch any of, by the way. Every other game I've at least, like, gazed through. But I thought Silvally-Ground not getting a single use this week was pretty interesting. But I think it can be explained away pretty easily as to why. Pokemon randomly becoming super dominant. Through the first 2 weeks, people are now gonna, like, start over-prepping for it. And while you can't tell from some of these, like, this team I'm under the assumption this is a heat-proof Bronzong, otherwise you have queued up with literally no ground resist, and that is unviable. But, this build, yeah, I'd say this is pretty well prepped for Silvally-Ground overall. You got, like, Mantine. This is a... I don't know if I should say what this thing's set is, but rest assured it can help against Silvally-Ground. This team's got, like, T-Flame, Rotom-Mow, potentially Scarfed. Looking at this team, I don't think it would be Scarfed here. Also, that is a double grass. Oof. This team's got a Xatu, though. Mudsdale's just really bulky. Vaporeon's bulky enough to tank one. Golbat is part of Lord and Savior. And this team's very similar in that it's got a lot of just generally good switch-ins. Also, Renchon literally queuing up with a Sun and Moon NU team, but then replacing the Steelix with a Bronzong, and the, Incineroar. No, not the Incineroar, because you wouldn't run Incin plus Guzz. Ooh, what would this have been? Let's think. It'd need to be, like, a Scarfer, probably? Oh, it's the Pissimian. There you go. Replacing the Steelix and Pissimian with a Talonflame and Bronzong. You know, love to see it. But this team's as well got, 1, 2, kind of 3 answers. Also, bro, TDK's team is cracked, but it's also, like, kind of cool. When we get to this game, I'll talk about that more. And then, Devon, this is actually Levitate Bronzong. So you've got, like, 50 ground immunes. And then a Vaporeon as well. So, again, just mod that is bulky enough to tank one hit. Another thing I'm just noticing as we look through all these replays, and even considering, like, previous weeks, there's been a lot of Tyrantrum usage. Like, this, 2 games out of, 5, you see 1 Teatrum. So 20% usage again, which is actually pretty interesting. People are seemingly much higher on Teatrum than the community as a whole has been for the past however many months since Tyrantrum started really going down the VR. I would say probably at least 3 months if we're thinking back to when Flagon was super dominant, or just even in the tier. People's view of Tyrantrum was pretty poor because, defensive Flagon was on every team, and locking into Outrage, kind of not worth. So to see it just now popping back up is kind of interesting, especially with defensive Bronzong being everywhere. I think some of it is reactionary to Silvally-Ground, since that doesn't have as good as natural bulk or, like, any longevity at all compared to some of the other resistances to Tyrantrum's Head Smash. But even then, Tyrantrum was getting usage, like, the first week, before Silvally-Ground was, like, really showing, hey, by the way, I am a Pokemon that you all should pay attention to, which I found interesting. Anyhow, if we're looking at this first game here now, very interesting transition, I know. I hate Team Charm's team. I don't know why. I just look at it and I go, why are any of these Pokemon on the team? The idea, okay, let's be real. It's a bulky offense build. We don't see much spikes in NU at the moment. Garbodor is still viewed as, like, a good Pokemon, or at least a fine Pokemon. But it's just, I don't know. Our spinners aren't the best. When you think about NU spinners, you're really looking at, like, Delmise, and then not a whole lot else. You got some fringe usage picks, like we've seen. I'm gonna say Alolan Sandslash here. but it's not, you know, it's a mod that like people have used like once and had been like, yeah, it's fine, I guess. But don't really look too much into that. And then like kind of same with defensive Blastoise. Vaporeon not the same level of dominance as it used to be though, so you don't really even see that set pop up. People ran block Blastoise a little bit back when Vaporeon was like A+ on the VR, because rapid spin's super high power points meant you were always going to be able to really safely stall Vapo out of all of its moves. But as I look at the team here, the goal is just set up spikes and hope that you just win the war of attrition and that one of Kingdra or Scarf Pass can clean. Whereas with Hoenn's team, I mean, I remember there is a very interesting tech on this team that we'll see when we get to it. But Hoenn's team's got like maybe a little bit more like notable ways of winning. I would say this has got the potential to be Scarf Celebi. I don't remember if it was or not. But then you got like, you know, AV, not even necessarily, no, this wasn't AV Copper, but it's non-Rocks Copper. Because this is Stealth Rock Palossand. It was like Lefties Protect, which is actually a really cool set that I do think deserves a little bit more usage. And then Wish Sylve, probably just SD Drapion. And yeah, like I was saying, Scarf Celebi's potentially this. But I really hate Team Charm's matchup into Hoenn's team. Now, Hoenn doesn't have, though, like here, the caveat to that, Hoenn doesn't have a Hazard Remover. This is not Defog Arrow, I don't think. There's no way, given what this thing's set is, that it has Defog on there as well. I refuse. Nah, Hoenn didn't do that to me. So, that is a benefit for Team Charm. You can guarantee your spikes up versus this build, and since he's got 5 grounded mons, none of which really run boots, the impact of spikes has, like, really good potential. The main worry would be that his 2 win cons are going to be the Scarf Pass and the Kingdra, and every Kingdra is pretty much going to be Double Dance with Agility Focus Energy. And just looking at Hoenn's team, neither of those mons really win the game ever. Passimian's got to try to get through Palossand. And, like, there's not a mod on this team that necessarily forces damage on the Palo. I guess kind of, you could say Garbodor might be able to make some progress there. But the combination of Sylveon and Palo is just really annoying. And especially because the Copper Rogers Protect. That gives him so much more leeway around the passer. And it means that this is going to struggle to ever, like, you know, maybe get in on like, a double, I guess, versus Copper. And then, like, force those awkward 50-50s between MIUing or MICCing your Copper and claiming it. And in Kingdra is just, Kingdra doesn't get past this unless it's like severely chipped. Even a crit Surf, I think it does, oh, I don't remember the calc, but you need pretty significant chip to OHKO. So spikes are going to be really integral to Team Charm's success. So if we look at this game, we see the Zong lead versus the Palo, and this could be just a Rocks trade, but Hoenn's just going to Shadow Ball immediately as Team Charm gets his Rocks up. That's not overly important because you can always Rock up on the next turn. So he takes the damage because that helps potentially let Celebi win if it's like non-Scarf maybe. It also helps Aerodactyl because this is his primary means of switching into it. Passimian's a good arrow check as well, but it does have to, I guess, fear dual Wing Beat. And the Dhelmise are going to come in on the next turn. One's going to go out to his Celebi here. And he is lefties, so that is more than likely going to be maybe like, I mean, it could be like CM Celebi. But he gets out his Drapion here. Also, Hoenn, your nickname game needs to be stopped. What you do should be considered illegal in several states. And here's the Aerodactyl. That's going to spike up. Actually, Tantrums. I would have thought you'd spike, but no, you don't want to risk this SDing up, so I understand that. Here's where we're going to see the very interesting tech. Yum. I actually think this is a cool set, because it gives you technically a Poltergeist blocker. So Golurk can't use any of its stabs versus you before you've thieved. But it's also kind of cool because the primary means on a lot of teams for beating up Aerodactyl is going to be a Mudsdale or a Bronzong. And so being able to nab their lefties, have like a pseudo knockoff of sorts, is kind of cool. So we're going to see the Vaporeon get theft. That's actually pretty important too because it means that Wish Stall with Protect is a lot less effective. And we are going to see the double in the Drapion here as one of like Bronzong or Dhelmise is pretty much forced out now. Here, you knock again. He could have SD'd if he wanted to. I think that would have been fine, but given how much Slam did there, it could have been a little bit risky. Especially if you just went hard pass or something, right? Then you're not really making that much progress. And having Pass's Scarf knocked in some ways is a little bit detrimental. Only because, like, I don't think you really care. You'd rather not let Pass have the freedom to switch moves. Now, in other ways it is good, right? Pass without a Scarf can't Revenge Kill Drapion, can't threaten your Aerodactyl, it can't threaten your Celebi, but yeah. And we're actually going to see Hoenn go for a nice little Stone Edge here, predict that this was just going to go for Wish, and we also see Team Charm make a very ballsy play here, actually Scalding. That is so risky, but you know what, it paid off. And now the Celebi is, in a really good position. The Bronzong wasn't able to get a Wish Pass to it there, because the Vaporeon had to take it. And so Celebi's looking to be potentially in a good spot to win here. Now you get to go for Recover very freely. He is going to switch into the Delmise, and Delmise's special bulk is like really good. You can EV it pretty easily without even going full Spadef to tank up a like +2 Life Orb Psychic, so you already know that this is not threatening to kill Delmise from that range. And we're going to see the big Raj come out. Bang, bang, 3 Hunna. Hoenn. Now he's going to Heat Crash. And here we are going to see lefties. So if you see lefties on a Kaparaja, where there's another Rocker, you pretty much do expect Protect, I would say. And we're going to see here, it gives him so much extra leeway. Raj is actually just so good in this game, too, with the Garbodor gone. And, I mean, even the Bronzong weakened. Now, again, on this team, I'd expect it to be Levitate. You have to. Every team needs a Ground Immune. I refuse to build a team without a Ground Immune. Volt Immunes are, like, half excusable if you want to look at them through the lens of they all lose to Rotom-Mow anyway, so why would I care? And maybe you could just say, I have resistances to Volt Switch, so I can sort of, like, stave off the progress that move would make otherwise. But I just feel like Ground Immune, when a lot of tiers have just really strong wall breakers that are ground types or reliant on ground type moves, is just dire. And yeah, we're going to see a Protect on the CC. You know he has to go Palo there, so he's going to... Team Trap could make a good double into the Kingdra. And then Sylveon comes out, and yeah, like, what do? Focus Energy? Yeah, You don't know, Co. So this is going to just get to throw off Hyper Voices. And we all know Sylveon is going to be faster than Delmise, so he gets to just pick it here. Also, they said GG on turn 27, which I think is really funny. But yeah, there's no real win con for Team Charm unless Hoenn were to somehow just misclick like 5 turns in a row. And seeing him not go for, like, plot there makes me wonder if he's just 3 attacks or cover. But no, he is Nasty Plot. Okay. Remember, I have seen this replay, but I don't remember everything about it. He's going to try to Wish Pass there. There's nothing to be had there. I mean, there's just not. An Aerodactyl at this point is just death fodder, so he can always throw it out here. And it doesn't really matter. There's a Vaporeon. I mean, I think you just Stone Edge, unless you want to preserve this as death fodder. Yeah. So we edge there, we take the Scald, and then we can just go back out to Celebi and win from here. Because there's nothing Team Charm can do. You can always plot here. And then, yeah, what's coming in on Psychic? Afterwards, nothing. You know, like, he could have, if he wanted to, I guess he could plot again, but there's literally no reason to. This does not beat you under any circumstances. So, yeah, Scald gets a burn, that gets KO'd. I'm just gonna go through these next few turns really quickly. He actually was Gunk Shot, okay. But kind of surprised, because normally on Passimian, you always see Rock Slide last, because you don't need, but you really want a way to hit up Talonflame. And you can kind of say this seems a little weak to Talon. Like, if this is non-heat proof especially, then like an SD Talonflame is kind of difficult to deal with. But he gunks, this comes out, and then he'll be able to just go back out to the Sylveon pretty safely. As he actually, I think, yeah, he just stays in an Earth Powers, because this has to use both of its boosting moves to have any shot of doing anything. And so if it agilities, then you know Sylveon will always come in and be fine. If he focus energies, then Celebi's faster. And then, yeah, there we go, there's the forfeit. I thought Hoenn's team was pretty, like, just overall solid, but I thought that tech with the arrow was kind of cool. Aerodactyl is just such an awkward Pokemon, because it has that really heavy competition with Talonflame as a fast flying type, And with Talonflame even going with those Sword Stance sets more frequently now, Arrow doesn't even have the advantage of being like a distinct offensive flying type versus Talon, which would be more utility based. And then of course Tyrantrum even picking up some usage, especially with Scarf sets. That also kind of eats away at Arrow's usage. We've seen Palisade actually brought a couple of times now. And Palisade's a great answer to Arrow. Mudsdale is like still picking up in I don't know if I'd say Mudsdale's picking up in usage, but it is, I think more people are viewing it as closer to the level of efficacy that Bronzong, Kaparaja, and Diancie have. And Aerodactyl doesn't want to face that. Fizdef Bronzong, as we mentioned, that mod is still really good. It gives Arrow a lot of issues. But hey, I think Arrow actually was pretty useful this game. Thiefing the Vaporeon was really nice just to make it harder for this mon to sustain up and constantly be able to answer, I mean, hell, to constantly answer Arrow. With Rocks up especially, it was really pressured to switch into Stone Edges once the this was gone. And I'm guessing he played a little bit carefully with his Passimian around the Arrow, just in case it did have dual Wing Beat. I don't know, I thought it was kind of cool to see the spawn put in work here. We get to game 2. Honor Arceus' team. The reason I don't like his team is this. I come into this with a certain philosophy with team building. You are allowed a maximum of 2 shipmons per team. 2. And one of them still has to be, like, kind of respectable. On Arceus has brought 3 shipmons. Cumsel. Oh no. But he's brought Absol, Comfy, and Rhydon all. And none of those are, like, particularly amazing Pokemon. Comfy's not bad. It's got some it's like that. It's kind of matchup fishy. I think the set he brought this game was very illegal. We'll get to that when we see it. But Absol, I'm probably the like most Absol favored I don't know what word am I trying to use there. I'm pretty high on Absol compared to other people. I do value it as a breaker. The coverage is good. The power is great. Stab knockoff. That move is not easy for a lot of teams to switch into. But it's, you know, you're trying to compete with Guzzlord for a team slot. That's kind of hard. And in Rhydon, there's not a lot of reason to use this mod unless your team just desperately needs a better Salazzle answer. Which, in his defense, Rhydon fits here better than Mudsdale because better Salazzle answer. So can't really knock it that much. I just wonder, was there a better option on this team than the Absol? Would you have benefited more from one of the different dark types? Even Drapion, I think, would have been a bit better here. Guzzlord is maybe better as well because your counterplay to offensive water types is not great, especially since you have no ice resist. If I'm Life Orb Starmie versus this team, I am absolutely smacking my lips. But in Kushalas, again, he abided by that law. He only brought one bad Pokemon, which is the Stunfisk Galar. And I'm upfront with y'all right now. This mon looks way more useful this game than it needed to. And we'll get into that why. We'll get into the why of that as we go on. But we're going to see Rotom-Moly. This is just a matter of who loses the Volt Switch speed tie. And Kushalas loses it because you want to go second. And do we get to see this sinful set immediately? Not yet. You turn Comfy, like, that's sort of excusable, right? Because you could imagine, on this team, right? Comfy could be the Defogger with a set of, like, D-Gleam, because this set's usually our natural cure. But, D-Gleam, U-Turn, Synthesis, Defog. And then you could... Stop. And then, Talonflame, you know, standard utility set maybe, and then Rotom-Mow, you could see this being, like, Nasty Plot. So we don't know how sinful it is yet. But he turns out as the Rotom-Mow comes in. And then Vileplume. Vileplume is going to Sleep Powder Salazzle. That's actually really good. Because while Rhydon is a pretty decent answer to Lazzle, you do still want to limit this thing's opportunities as much as possible. Rhydon's not a bulky Pokemon. At least on the special end, without like significant investment. And if this Lazzle's like Overheat, a couple of those are going to put a lot of pressure onto Rhydon. And yeah, we get the Absol come out as the Mantine comes in. And yeah, this is CB Absol. That knocked in 5 million. Hello? Oh, I love it. And itemless Vileplume as well. It's just annoying. Powder plus Sap. Oh, I'm always a little sad not to see Girth, but it's fine. He actually gets a really key dodge versus the Mantine Hurricane. And it doubles back to the Absol here on the Rotom-Mow. Which isn't really that impactful. because he's immediately forced out. I mean, you could have suckered there, but then you're risking him, like, plotting up. And if he nasty plots up, well, you know, we are losing. That is a losing play. You know, he's going to get his right on out as the Gunfist comes out, get to trade rocks. And that's pretty helpful, I guess. I mean, this is boots, this is boots. You're pretty happy to get damage off in the pass, even if it's not that much. I see him Leaf Storm here, because the Vileplume is like so low. You really don't want to take the +2 Storm. And we do see even that he is just 3 attacks plot instead of split, which is honestly a set that I do like. I think T-Bolt Rotom Mow is just generally nice, because being constantly forced to switch sucks if you want to use your electric move. Being forced to constantly drop your special attack if you want to stay in, yeah, that also sucks. So having a move that can give you consistent damage output is pretty nice, especially if you're trying to get through a mon like, say, Bronzong or Copper Raja. Like, if we're talking Copper, I mean, that's a dangerous mon to try to 1v1 until it gets low, but it does let you kill it from a higher threshold, which is cool. And again, we still have not seen why this Comfy's sinful, but it U-turns again as the Gunfist comes in. And yeah, here, by the way, that's physically defensive. This has physical bulk investment, at least. There ain't no way in hell that absolute CBCC should be eaten up. Also, this is Boots Rotom Mow, but it isn't Pain Split, and that fills me with a sort of existential dread that I didn't know was quite possible. I already don't love Boots Rotom Mow because you're not really worried about hazards, right? Like, all you take is rocks, and you're not weak to rocks. So I don't really think you need Boots on Rotom Mow. I value the recovery from lefties a lot more, especially, again, if you're not going Pain Split. But, I mean, obviously, for this game, having the Boots right now is quite helpful, because this Mon took a million from that Leaf Storm from Rotom Mow. And the Bloom Snapper does Guzz. Now, I believe this is Rest Hawk Guzzlord, so it literally just needs to go to sleep and get rid of the paralysis. Vileplume should never be able to 1v1 this. Now, if this were Growth Vileplume, yeah, it would 1v1 this in a heartbeat. But it doesn't matter, because he's got Lazzle. So, in theory, this Mon should never get to make progress, really, versus this team. And he's just going to sit in front of the Vileplume and waste some power points. You don't really want to go Lazzle, I wouldn't say. Also, Dragon Pulse, Mixed Guzz. This is a set that I had not seen before until this game, so that was kind of cool. I wouldn't really want to go Lazzle, only because the Rhydon is kind of a threat at this point, right? Like, it getting turns to come in is a little annoying. And again, so we're talking about sinful sets. This is, if I see Defog on this, I'm fine. You know, Synthesis, U-turn, Defog, Deagling. That's all I need to see. Unfortunately, it's not what I'm going to get to see. And it made me very upset. I just want it to be shown. I need to explain why I think it's bad, and I don't want to just mention it earlier. I feel like that disrupts the flow. Surely you're going to use the forbidden move now, right? This is such a free turn to do it. Come on. Show me the move. There is no god, and this is proof. Also, this dodging the Hurricane earlier from the Mantine is so good. Right, so here's what I mean by this Gunfist looks a lot more useful this game than it needed to. Why'd we Volt? What's the point? I remember people were chatting in the Indian Discord. They were saying, you know, oh, does Leaf Storm not even kill? No, Leaf Storm kills even Spadef Stunfisk from that range. So, given this is, like, physical bulk on it, you know, this was fallen over. And then he Stone Edges it. Like, he just, he makes... It's not that these are necessarily bad plays, right? Because if you do just predict your opponent to switch, like, he's got a full health, not a full health, but he's got a Guzzlord that can really easily come in and then just rest off the damage. So I think Volting, you know, there's clear rationale there. And I think Stone Edging, there's clear rationale. You've got a Rotom Mow, which maybe could... It comes in and lives the Stone Edge, I'd imagine. You've got a Passimian. Well, you wouldn't Stone Edge a Passimian. But you got these two mods, both of which could potentially take on the Rhydon. So there is logic to those plays. It's just, I'll see Stone Edges again. This man was really convinced you were switching eventually. But it's just... Oh, those over-predictions are so costly, because the Gallerfisk kills off the Rotom-Bow, and then it also hits an Earthquake on the Rhydon, which is problematic, because while the Salazzle still is not burned to turn asleep, look at it in this matchup. It's really dangerous at this point. Your only means of maybe dealing with it is Talonflame, which hasn't even done anything this game. And with a defensive Guzzlord on the team still, hell, the Gallerfisk maybe even could deal with the Talonflame, pending what its moveset is. So yeah, so here's where the set's revealed to be truly cursed, by the way. Why are we CM U-turn? That's not real. That's not a real comfy. I am personally of the opinion the only CM comfy set that's really worth bothering with is the Subseed set, because Subseed comfy with CM actually 1v1s like Bronzong even, if it's Iron Defense, which I just think is really cool. And it also helps to be able to get up sub against, say, you know, maybe just defensive, not Guzzlord, defensive Bronzong though. Or even like Protox Guzzlord, if it doesn't have Heavy Slam. You can at least sub up and not worry about... Okay, I don't know why we care about Protox Guzzlord. We beat that. But it also helps give just general shielding from, like, other mons. You know, Arcanine, that mon runs status. Talonflame, that mon runs status. And Seed, I think, is just really good at breaking down a lot of your answers. Salazzle included. Imagine having Leech Seed this game. I actually think that if this was Subseed CM Comfy, as opposed to U-turn Synthesis, that we'd be in a much better place, just from preview. It's not that you, like, break Lazzle, but you would be able to make progress a lot better, especially because you got that early Sleep Powder off. I think this mon actually would have had a lot of potential this game. Just because, like, what does he do? He's constantly forcing the Lazzle then if you're Subseed. And you can consistently get those seeds off, sub up, especially while it's asleep. And you dictate the flow of the game a lot better that way. And obviously I'm not talking about these turns right now, because this is mostly just a slow, like, painful death for on Arceus at this point. There's not really much he can do. His Windcon is a comfy that is never going to break the Salazzle. His Talonflame, again, still hasn't even come out other than a U-turn twice. So you already know it's not threatening to win the game. Especially not against a Rest Talk Guzzlord, and even, you know, this Gallerfisk that's still around. The Rhydon, you're not really worried about. And yeah, this Lazzle's now plotting and is saying, okay, it's my time. Talonflame comes out. He is actually going to switch there just in case a Brave Bird comes out. Because maybe that would put his Lazzle in range of the Comfy. And if he loses Lazzle, Comfy does win. And that's part of the reason that I think Subseed Comfy would be so good. The only counterplay to it on his team is the Lazzle. Is just, unfortunately, you chose this game to have this set. And I mean, the set does make me think of, like, how Nasty Plot's U-turn Celebi was used in UU some last gen. Because you're able to keep up momentum against Pokemon like, say, Latias and Hydreigon. Which is kind of cool. I just don't think you get the same benefits from that kind of tech in this Inyu. And yeah, I mean, again, there's not a whole lot for me to say at this game at this point. It's mostly just Kushalos making very safe pivots around with his team. As On Arceus tries to find, like, some turn to CM and actually win with the Comfy. But with the Lazzle woken up especially, there's not really anything to be done here. Again, so the Comfy comes out. He is going to go Mantine. I think he's just trying to keep rocks off the field at this point. To give his team as much leeway as possible as he seeks for a 6-0. I mean, T-Flame is just utility, so it doesn't ever break. The Comfy never breaks anything either, just because you've got... I mean, the Gunfisk walls, but it doesn't really wall. If you know what I mean, like, it is just glorified death fodder over the long term against this Comfy. At this point, Lazzle can just go for plot, and, I mean, yeah, it pretty much wins. He still is going to be very careful with his Salazzle around the Talonflame, just because he needs it alive and a decent enough amount of health to where this thing can't try to, like, cheese out a win, right? But, I mean, yeah, as we see there, like, +1 did 9. Like, he would have needed a lot, and, yeah. Just think, if you had Leech Seed this game, this Lazzle was not going to be around the game as long. I think Leech Seed cut CM Comfy actually 6-0'd. But hey, sometimes you do just not prepare with the best of sets. Now, this is actually one of the games I didn't see at all. But looking at preview, as we said, Renchan has queued up he has queued up Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, NU with some Pokemon changes. And he brought back the Vileplume because he said, you know what? Vileplume should never have been banned. And if you think otherwise, your opinion is wrong. Vileplume was not problematic in Gen 7 NU. You're just wrong. Just get good. Forehead. But Rachi Blutar brought a Virizion and a Golbat, which is interesting. I don't even hate Virizion on paper. It's just Talonflame being everywhere means you have to run Stone Edge, I'd say, because otherwise so long as the T-Flame is around, it will revenge kill your Brave Bird. But NU also has a lot of good poison types, i.e. Dragalge and Vileplume being the two big ones, but even Salazzle you can throw in there. Salazzle gets Stone Edged, but it's there, I guess. But you want Zen Headbutt for the former two, especially. And so it's just really hard for this Mon, in my eyes, to ever really contribute too much. There's not like a single set that it can run that I look at and I go, yeah, I can see that being a problem in a majority of games. It's really the opposite. I see Virizion being darn near useless in a majority of games. But let's see. I mean, it could do something this game. If he has the right coverage... Well, the right coverage. If he's, like, SD dual stabs and then he'll have Zen or Stone Edge. If he gets rid of, like, say, this thing, if he's Stone Edge, there is a good shot that this Mon can do something. Because it's got enough special bulk to where I'm not too worried about Heliolisk. Also, yeah, it's just one base point lower than Liska. It's so sad. But it can potentially get a surprise kill in the T-Flame. And then if this thing gets weakened through, like, maybe work of a Scavalier, he also just has a Golbat, which perpetually will sit in front of this. Then maybe this can do something. So let's see. I think Renchan's way of winning, because he's just brought a really standard, like, bulky offense build. Hey, I said pause. What is all of this? Hello? What are all these words? Stop. Subscribe to me on YouTube? No! I don't know who you are. But, yeah, I just say Renchan's way of winning is, like, the Lisk. Heliolisk breaks really well against this team. And so long as you just get enough pressure onto the Escavalier to where Age Voice cleans, and I think pressuring a Scav is pretty reasonable to expect, and then I think you're in a pretty decent spot. The Vaporeon is a little annoying, though. Also, that just did over half. Is this CB? Is this CB? Hello? Also, we're doubling back to Guz here, right? Yo! Skill swap Bronzong. I've been wanting to see this eventually come out. Right, so with Xatu usage coming up a lot more nowadays, I think something like skill swap on Bronzong is actually not that bad. Also, this is Overcoat for some reason. I don't know why, but it is. I guess if you're worried about Sleep Powder Vileplume, that's not bad, but I think Shell Armor is... None of Escavalier's abilities are, like, overly useful, but I still prefer Shell Armor just in case I run into, you know, a Kingja or Inteleon that wants to run Focus Energy. Just in case. And insurance against critical hits in general is kind of helpful. Anyhow. The Talonflame pivots out versus the Vapo. Again, I think this is CB Guz. Oh, he is CB as hell if he has Dragon Rush. Yeah. Unfortunately, Dragon Rush is a terrible move, and I'd almost rather just run Dragon Claw, because I think the effective damage output is higher, because Dragon Rush's accuracy is like 75. Anyhow, this comes out again. I'm guessing you're just gonna Dragon Rush again. Yeah. He keeps hitting on the Protects. But if he can get... Yeah, this is CB. So if he gets enough of these Dragon Rushes off versus the Escavalier, and yeah, he goes for it again, he could potentially open up a Lisk win really, really soon. Especially because the Vaporeon is already, like, pretty low. He's just gonna rush again. I think he's just calling out Roger here for not having Mega Horn. I think he's just saying you don't have it. Or he might even, like, you may say you don't have Mega Horn or CC. Because this could be Protox's Scab. I don't think it's revealed enough moves not. Oh, yeah, he has! Okay. I didn't know he'd reveal all his moves. I'm gonna see the Growth Vileplume go out here. I mean, this isn't really a huge deal. We do see the Scout there, though. Just to make sure that we don't get, like, Psychicked. And, like, overall health isn't too important on the Heliolisk this game. And there we go. Of course, we do get the confirmation. Now, I don't even know if we get the confirmation as banded. I don't even know if knocking the band is, like, that great. Because now you can't... Because you got, like, maybe even triple protect. You don't have the best of means to scout this out now. And then, like, try to switch into, like, something to answer it. And, yeah, I expect Virizion to come out. That still takes so much from knock. And he even stays in predicting the edge. Only to be punished by missing Dragon Rush for, like, the 3rd time this game. Ah, you love to see it. You really do. So, Guzzlord goes down, but I do think it made a good amount of run this game. And potentially opens up something for Heliolisk. Here's Lisk. Oh, I thought he'd go Lisk there, and maybe just T-Bolt, assuming that the Muds wouldn't come out. Oh, I remember him talking about it in Ucord. Yeah, this is Cosmic Power Xatu. So, Cosmic stored, I'd guess, Roost, and then maybe D-Gleam, just so you're not hopeless versus an opposing Guzzlord. And any other Dragon type. Oh, not Dragon type, Dark type. And he's just gonna keep Cosmicing up. He also has not been burned yet by a Scald. Does this win? Does Xatu just win here? He also is not... I don't think he's shown an item. There hasn't been helmet recoil. He's not getting lefties. I mean, he could be... I wouldn't think he'd be weakness policy. I think that's better on a team that goes with dual screens, if you want to try to run this sort of set. He just revealed the Cosmic, the stored power there. What does that do? Nothing. That's why CM is better. And he... Oh my god, he is weakness policy. Okay. Yo. So this is also huge for the damage because not only do you get more stat boosts just to make your stored power base power go up, but you also got special attack out of that. Yo, look at the tactical stalling out of these stored power points. I don't think it actually matters. Yeah, so now we do damage. And I don't... Unless he gets a crit with, like, Virizion, I don't think you break Xatu. I think this Mon just is going to win with stored power. Yeah, even though he's stalling him out as best he can, but I think this wins. Yeah, he's gonna keep trying to stall out as many power points as he can. It's a losing battle. It's a losing effort. He's gonna crit for Stone Edge here. He doesn't get it, so Virizion's gonna fall as well. And yeah, I think at this point Renchan just sweeps. There's not really anything that can be done. He's gonna Roost just to make sure that he can stay safe. Yeah, yep, good night. He protects there, dub, good night, and good night. Wow, I love this set. That was so fun. Yo, that was actually so cool. I really like Renchan's team. They had a couple of things on it that I really vibe with. The weakness policy, Cosmic Power, stored power. Oh my lord. And then a skill swap Bronzong to try to get rocks up against Xatu. And look, it didn't work this game because he didn't go Xatu versus Bronzong, but I'm just glad that we got to see it. And then of course Growth Vileplume. Hey man, anytime I see this set, a certain part of my brain just gets all fuzzy inside, and it's just nice. Now looking at this team, now I remember when I first queued up, or not queued up, but when I first opened this replay, when I watched it, I wasn't gonna watch it. I was like, I looked at TDK's team and I was like, bro, this team is ass. But it's actually, it makes a lot more sense once you see the replay. It's just Spike's HO, which I think was actually, it's a very interesting pick to like pull out, because Spike's, they do get occasionally a little bit of, at the beginning of the gen at least, people were shitting on Spike's, especially Spike's offense as an archetype, because without, or with Boots in the gen, it just was, people were thinking it would be so much harder to get meaningful run out of Spikes. Now, there's still, you know, people still view him as fine on, like, balance, but there's, like, dedicated offense builds where they're meant to just throw up Spikes and then win. People weren't too sure how good they'd be. And I do think the fact that grounded Pokemon don't run boots overly commonly in NU does at least open this archetype up for success here. But, yeah, I do like the synergy that these mons have overall, though. I think generally these break pretty well for each other. Like, Talonflame is able to get damage onto the bulky water types. The Stoys. T-Trum is able to maybe... No, not... T-Trum plus Golurk plus T-Flame in general. Like, these... Zoroark as well, because this is a big Swords Dance Zoroark. These mons all just work really well together to open up holes in, like, any physical wall. So one of them should sweep. I'm looking at Snow Genry's team, so I'm actually really offended by it. Because I built this without ever seeing his team, and I just feel like my team is... Like, I feel like we built the same squad, almost. There are more Pokemon differences than I thought there were originally, but it was just... I saw it. I opened this replay, saw his team, was just like... You're telling me this man had damn near the same idea as me? That's wild. But, there's not too much to say about his win con, because it really just is, don't lose to the offensive power of TDK's squad. So it's, you're just trying to avoid being overwhelmed too quickly. You know, there's no specific Pokemon that really has, like, an overly amazing matchup. I mean, Heliolisk is kind of good here, I guess. You know, I mean, Dragalge obviously is fantastic in that there's not a single mon that wants to switch into Draco, but its offense, there probably wouldn't have been one. So let's see how it goes. So he will lead off with Last. I think that's just to be expected. He wants to spikes up as immediately as possible, and Snow Genry will try his best to limit the amount of spikes that can be put up. And it doesn't work. It does not work. Does not work. All 3 layers go up, and yeah, will the Delmise ever get a spin? We'll see. Now, yeah, there's no reason for him not to preserve the Last's death fodder here. You can always get the T-Trum here, and he actually just essentially what he tries to do there is fish for a cursed body on the Brave Bird, and then go out to like maybe Stoys, I guess. Or rather that's Stoys, but one mod. This Earthquake's the Delmise though. And, ooh, we see a double in the muds. I think the point there is mostly just he's thinking Delmise is going to synthesis up versus the Lurk. He's probably assuming that it is, itemless. Now, I would guess Stone Edge. If that's at 34, it's resist at 75. Stone Edge probably would have killed, but he doesn't have to risk it. But as we see here, TDK is just going to try to make as much run out of, or get as much run out of he can out of this, like, physical breaker core. Because if the mud still gets low, then maybe the Zoroark can do something. Also, when I saw this, I thought Stoys learned Swords Dance for a second. And then, yes, we see Zoroark be a great Pokemon. Feint to Rocky Helmet Mudstail. Yep. And yeah, this is itemless Acro Talonflame, so he does not care. Even if this thing went for spin, it didn't really matter. And we're going to see this Talon put in work. This is Levitate Bronzong, so it's not a check. This is Specs Lisk, or maybe not Specs Lisk. I don't remember if I see it take boots or damage from Specs this game. Okay, it does take damage, but it's not Scarf. I want to say this is like E-Belt, because I don't think you would do as little damage to the last as you did unless you're not Specs. But yeah, SDT Flame put in a lot of work. I actually really like this set. I think it's pretty cool to see it get more use, because, look, I get tired of seeing the same utility T-Flame set spammed. And yeah, I'm gonna pause this real quick before we go into the next one, so I will catch y'all in half a second. You ever just gotta get a nice cold refreshing Diet Coke, man, at damn near midnight? Probably not. I feel like I'm one of the only people in the world that drinks these and enjoys them, but that's beside the point. We got the last game now. And there's an Inteleon. Also, yo, anyone else notice how much Passimian has been used this week? I didn't really mention it at first, but there's been a lot, hasn't there? Okay. There's 2. There's 3. There you go, 3 Passimian. So people are finally picking up on that mon too. Also, Xatu usage has been nutty. then there's 1, 2. There wasn't any here. There's 3, 4. Man, 4 is on 2 total. That's a lot. But anyhow, get into his last game. In theory, right? If this is not a Scarf Tyrantrum, which it shouldn't be, because there is a Passimian, Salazzle could go in. I mean, there's not really any way great switch-ins to Lazzle on Sensei Axu's team, because he opted for an offensive Rock and Water type. So you can kind of just press your Fire move repeatedly and make significant progress. And it's not like you're really struggling to find entry opportunities anyway. I mean, there's a whole Vileplume here. But looking at the teams here, I would still give a pretty decent edge to Sensei Axu, I think. Maybe not a decent edge, but I feel like I slightly give him favor in this game. He did queue into Vaporeon with an Inteleon, but as you'll see with this Vaporeon set, it's not... it doesn't really last as long as you'd want it to. Anyhow, we get Raj lead versus Rotom-Mow, and I gotta give props to Sensei Axu's nickname game real quick here. Great album, Lil Nas X, truly the king of our era. And we see Stone Edging from the Copper as the Xatu comes out, and now Teatrum's in. And I mean, this is a free crunch, yeah. Like, not even, like, the reason that that's a free crunch instead of a free head smash, right? Locate the Dark Resist. Is it Vaporeon? No, it's not, because that Vaporeon, I don't know if we're gonna see it here. I don't know if we even get confirmation that this Vaporeon set is cursed. We see Ice Beam there, it doesn't even KO Teatrum, oh my lord. But, this is actually, like, non-wish. And so, Teatrum crunching it twice, pretty safe progress. Inteleon even, again, just the dark type coverage moves from Sensei Axu's team make so much progress against Davon. And this is what I meant by Inteleon actually has like a decent matchup into this team. This just can't stall it out really all that reliably. And also, because Teatrum was able to get, you know, double crunch off on it. But because this couldn't even heal up with Wish, it was in a really good spot. Also, this crit sucks. Like, it sucks for Devon. But it's not like an overly big issue, I suppose. Then we see Life Orb Lazzle actually just come out, kill off the Raj. Not the Raj, the Teatrum. But this Inteleon is in such a good position now. It gets to freely throw off Hydro Pumps. This is a Scarf Rotom-Mow, so he does have to pay his respects to it. But anytime Inteleon gets in against Bronzong or Salazzle, it gets to click Hydro Pump, and something at this point is fainting. Nothing gets to tank one. And there's just really not much room for Davon to find a great way to win at this point, right? Like, I mean, Ninjask is not breaking Copper Raja. Lazzle just, I don't think it ever finds a great turn to do much of anything either. And in like Scarf Rotom-Mow, there is a whole Vileplume here. So here you're gonna Volt into the Lazzle as the Vileplume comes out. And then I think you've got to go for Overheat here. Yeah. Doesn't it? Wow, this lives. Huh? Why does this tank? Also, because there are rocks up, Lazzle doesn't even get to come in again. Do you sack that there? Is it best to sack Rotom-Mow there? I mean, Rotom-Mow isn't ever winning with Vileplume being alive, so yeah, I think it's fine. And then Jask is gonna come out. Now, I think you had to U-turn here, personally, but I'm unsure that it actually makes much of a difference. Because you're not breaking Copper Raja, right? So. And I mean, if we want to go by, like, the whole fact of Pokemon being a shitty game, there was always a win con still. There's always a win con. This didn't faint to Acro, but just think if he had gotten another crit versus the Plume. And I guess you could sort of say that this is why he should have kept Rotom-Mow around. Just because If he had Rotom-Mow around, there's a good chance he could have gotten that 3% off on the Vileplume from a Volt. Now again, maybe the crit wouldn't have happened on Copper if that was how the game was played out. You know, you can't just assume that Copper will get crit if he Volt switches versus Vileplume at some point. But I do think it's kind of funny that, damn, that crit actually gave him a shot to win. I don't know what the calcs are on Ninjask's Acro versus Vileplume, and I don't really care to look them up either. But that's part of the reason that I do think maybe you wanted to keep this around, just to try to force that damage there. It could have also just been that Devon thought there was no chance that this Mon was ever going to do anything useful. But I think Lazzle was kept a lot more like in place by the point of the game that they had reached than Rotom-Mow was. Now if we go back, let me go to where Rotom-Mow sacked off. So it sacked off here on turn 22. This is at 65, this is at 84. So he sacks us to the Dark Pulse, and that was off a hard switch out of Lazzle. If he keeps Lazzle in and sacks it, and Rotom-Mow was at 19, so it had one more switch into rocks. I'm probably not making too much sense right now. I'm just trying to like think this out for myself. If there was maybe a shot at that being a better line. I think no matter what line Devon took, he needed to get a little lucky. If he sacks Lazzle instead, so say he stayed in, right? He always has to go Ninjask afterwards. So Jask is always coming out on this turn. And then you still could like no, I don't think it mattered at that point, because Jask has to come out versus Copper. And then you'd be sacking Rotom-Mow here instead. So I think if anything it would have just been he needed rocks up this game. And that was always going to be kind of hard to do with the Xatu in the game. So yeah, I think no matter what, he was going to have to get like double crits at the end. Or just a higher roll on Plume. But things to note from this week, it does not matter how much of a meta presence you are deemed at as being. Silvally-Ground, not even used once this week. But we saw some French picks brought in, and they actually looked pretty good. I mean, again, Inteleon was looking really nice, in this game at least. What else put in some work? I mean, SD T-Flame again. T-Flame in general continuing to assert that it is the best mon in the meta, I would say. We also saw a lot of Vileplume losses, not Vileplume losses, Vaporeon losses, which I'm always for. Actually, I think Vaporeon went 0% win rate this week. What the hell? So there's a loss there. That's 1 use, 1 loss. That's 2 use, 2 loss. That's 3 uses, 3 losses for Vaporeon. Good lord. But even after like week 1, where we were seeing no Bronzong and like no Rotom-Mow, we have seen both those mons get a little bit more run now. So like there's a Bronzong, there's a Rotom-Mow, there's a Rotom-Mow, there's a Bronzong, there's a Bronzong, and there's a Bronzong and a Rotom-Mow. So both of the mons are like, you know, they're showing, hey, we still also are at the top of the food chain. But I do think it's pretty interesting to see just how like volatile some of these metas can be in tournaments. Where it's like, yeah, there are consistencies, but just because you're getting used one week does not mean you'll be used the next, and vice versa as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I want to say that I viewed the teams brought this week as maybe a little bit better overall. I think slowly but surely the teams are being more consistent. There will always be some teams that I don't vibe with, and part of that just comes down to like building preference. So, like for instance, I really don't love this team. I feel like the win cons, I mean, this is the win con. I just don't really know if it fits here overly well, because the team doesn't have, maybe I just don't know what the Delmai set was, but I don't feel like the team's breaking power is all that good, and Kingdra does require a decent amount of break support to get through some of its like really hard answers. Now there aren't too many of those, but it does want ways to get by them, and I just don't think that those ways were here. It was really just, his team was just very reliant on spikes to break, and I I'm not the biggest fan of that. So there, I mean, there's an instance of that. And of course, I think Gunfisk is a bad meme that should get you prison time if you use it. That one's for you, Pokeslice. But as always, I hope you guys enjoying your time. Thank you for watching, especially if you got to this point, because wow, this is almost an hour long. Good shit if you made it here. Comment below if you watched the whole thing. Let me know. The comment word will be, let's think. What's our good old phrase to say if you watched here? Demon Xatu. Actually, no, because that might be the title. How about we say... I got nothing. Just let me know if you made it to the end of the video. I'll catch y'all later, man. Peace.